Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Facebook and YouTube Live with me, the Acrylic Diva. It's Wednesday afternoon, about 4 o'clock here in San Francisco. And today we're going to revisit color. We talked about color last week, and we're going to do some further investigation of color this week. Last week I showed you how easy it was to take the three primary colors and mix them and make a lot of muted color. Well, today we're going to talk about how to mix some really interesting black. Now, black may be something that you don't think too much about, but I'll tell you something, it can be a very important tool in your color toolbox. So we're going to do some really interesting things with black today, and we're also going to take a look at mixing some very interesting green. Okay, so hang with me and we're going to get into that in a second. Before I forget, I want to tell you that Thursday night, on the other channel, on the other YouTube channel, my live streaming channel, which is called Acrylic Diva Workshops, Thursday night we have a live class called Creative Flow. And I want to invite you all to jump over there on Thursday nights and hang with us for an hour. We have some wonderful, very cool music that I've found. I've looked at a lot of music and found some really wonderful music, very soothing, very cool. And this week we're doing the second half of a Richard Diebenkorn project. Of course, once you subscribe to that, you can always revisit those projects as much as you like. And I will be sure that I put the link to that in the show notes in this show as well. Okay? So, the other thing I want to tell you is if you hang with me till the end of this live broadcast, I am giving away paint. How about that? But you have to hang out to the end, okay? All right, so without further ado, let's jump over to the overhead camera and take a look at how to mix some really cool black. Okay, so here we are, grabbing my overhead camera and got my paint all ready. Now I've got Madame Matisse on the screen. Let's take we don't need Madame Matisse today. Let's take her off. Okay. Um, So once again, I'm going to be working with the three primaries that I love so much: phthalo blue, Hansa yellow, medium, and quinacridone magenta. Now these are the only three primaries you need to mix just about everything you can see in the whole wide world, and then some. So I want to give you the option of simplifying your palette and not having to buy a ton of paint and being able to mix a lot of different colors. Now, one thing I'm going to add to my paint is acrylic glazing liquid. Can you even read that? It's got so many fingerprints on it. I'm going to add acrylic glazing liquid to my paint because I'm going to be mixing right on some bond paper, and I want to make sure that my paint stays wet long enough for me to get good mixtures. So this really helps to slow down the drying time of my paint. Okay, now let me just take a quick peek into the chat box. It looks like our live stream is pretty good this week. We had some real problems last week. So if things start to get wonky in terms of the live feed, just be aware that this is all being recorded, and I'll post the entire recording if things happen to get wonky in the live feed. Okay? All right, so let's jump into mixing some color. I'm going to put a little glazing liquid out, just a blop of that there. And I'm going to be mixing some black. The first couple of colors I'm going to mix is black. And when I start mixing black, I always start with phthalo blue, because obviously phthalo blue, of these three mixing colors, phthalo blue is the darkest of these three. And when we're talking about color, one of the characteristics of color that you want to take a look at is the inherent value of the color. So whether the color is inherently light or dark. And of course, phthalo blue is dark, Hansa yellow is light, quinacridone magenta is actually dark, a lot darker than Hansa yellow. So if we're going to mix black, we're going to go for a color that is inherently dark to begin with. So let's start with blue. our phthalo blue. And you know something, before I get into mixing that, I want to just pop back to the color wheel for just a brief second. I don't want to skip this step because I think it's important. This is the color wheel that I made last week from Hansa Yellow, Phthalo Blue Green shade, and Quinacridone Magenta. Now, this is only the three mixing primaries here, but what I want to do is I want to fill in this color wheel for you with the secondary colors, because these secondary colors are going to be really important when it comes to making things like black and muted color. So let's take a look at our three primaries. Let's make those secondaries first before we get into mixing black. So I'm going to just pop out my three primaries here. Now you see what a tiny amount of phthalo blue I have here? It's like about a fifth or less of the amount of Hansa Yellow and Quin Magenta I have. I keep hammering this point home because I think it's super important, and that is that this phthalo pigment is super potent. Okay, so when you are mixing with it, err on the side of caution. You need the tiniest amount. Okay, so the first color I'm going to make here to go right between my phthalo and my quin on my color wheel, I'm going to make a purple. So I think I might have mixed this last week as well, but let's just mix it up again. And I am going to grab a little bit of glazing liquid. I always have that out because I'm always going to need it. Glazing liquid, grab a little bit of that. I'm going to start with Quin Magenta, starting with the least powerful color, because it's easier to bring the more powerful color into the least powerful color. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. If I started with phthalo blue and tried to bring Quin Magenta into it to make purple, I'd have a mixture this big before I got what I wanted, because this doggone phthalo is so powerful. So let me just grab a teeny weeny bit of the phthalo. Got a little bit of a shadow from my camera, so I hope you're getting really good clean color. Let me move it right over here in the light. Okay, so I've got a tiny amount of phthalo. Mix that into my Quin Magenta, and you see that purple there? I'm going to scrub it out. It's actually a little bit too blue. Doggone it. I got too much phthalo in that, which it's so easy to do. So let's start again. I've got a little blue, little phthalo on my brush, and that's probably going to be enough. So let's just see that? Let's just grab a little bit of the Quin. There we go. Okay, now this is more of a red violet than a purple. I actually want this bluer. So I'm going to try to get a teeny weeny amount of that phthalo. Now if I were mixing a half a gallon of paint, this would be a lot easier. But since I'm mixing this teeny weeny amount, it's really hard to get those tiny shifts in color. So now do you see the difference? I hope you can see the difference between this very blue, almost Prussian blue over here, and this more red violet that I've got here, which is kind of where I wanted to go. So while I'm at it, I'm gonna put a little glazing liquid in it because I'm gonna need it in a minute. So I'm going to put that right here on my color wheel, kind of in the middle, and I'm doing it kind of thin so you can see the white paper behind it. But one of the only ways that you can see color is if you have some reflected light behind it. So remember last week, if you were with me last week, I used the analogy that going to buy a shirt or something and trying to figure out whether it was dark blue or black or brown or navy blue in the store. Sometimes you actually have to go to the window and show it to the light so that you can see it. So for instance, let me come back to the camera here real quick. Take a look at the turtleneck that I've got on. I don't know if you can see on camera or not. It probably looks black. It's actually dark green, but it's very hard for you to see that because there's just not enough light. There's not enough. If I had maybe a direct spotlight on me, you might be able to see it. So it's very important that you have the light to be able to see the color. Let's see if it looks any different. Kind of looks a little different under the camera, right? You can kind of pick up a little of that dark green. So when you're mixing color, you really want to be sure that you get that white paper behind it, okay? All right, so our next color that we're going to mix, make sure my brush is nice and clean. The next color that we're going to mix is going to land right between the Hansa yellow and the Quin magenta. We're going to make an orange. And once again, as I said last week, we don't have a primary red on this in our mixing set. Our three primaries don't have what you would call a primary red. So there's a space missing in our color wheel right here. And so we're going to make something that's kind of like a naphtha red light. It's not going to be too orange. You don't want it to be too yellow. So let's take our Hansa yellow, least powerful color, and a little glazing liquid there. Now, oh, and it looks like I've still got blue in my brush. Let me get that out. I don't want blue in this mixture. See the edge there that had a little green in it? That'll muddy up my color. So start again with my Hansa. Make sure I don't have anything on my brush. Grab a little glazing liquid and get a little Quin magenta here, tiny bit. I want to start with a really tiny bit. Now this isn't the color that I want right off the bat, but I want to take it in tiny, tiny steps because it's really easy to jump right through this color, just go right past it. So do it in tiny steps. So here's an orange. We're going to put a little bit of that there. Now I'm going to come back and grab just a tiny bit more of that Quin magenta. That might be too much. Let's see. That's better. That's more where I want to be. Let's take a look here in a minute. So see how it's not really red. It's a very yellow red. Let's put it over here so you can kind of see the difference. I think it could be just a tiny bit redder to hold that color space right here. I want something that lands visually between these two. So let me grab just a tiny bit more of the Quin magenta and see how I'm shifting it in these tiny, tiny increments. Okay, get that going. A little bit more, a little bit more. Be patient. I have done this kind of mixing in front of big groups of people and they're just like, just get to the point. You can't. You can't just get to the point. You have to go there in steps or you'll miss the point. Okay, so this is looking good. I like this. All right, let's see where we are. Yeah. Okay, now look at the difference in these mixtures. I hope you can see that on the camera. There's a big range there. And that's just from the different amounts of Quin magenta I put in. So I'm going to put that down here. Let's get a little more of it. So see how it feels like it lands visually between these two? Now, do I have 50-50 Hansa yellow and Quin magenta? No way, no way. I've got about probably 80 to 90 Hansa yellow and 10 to 20 Quin magenta. This is a much more powerful color. The tinting strength is much more powerful. Hansa yellow tends to have very weak tinting strength, so you always need more of it when you're making these secondary colors. Now, if you think that's crazy, wait until I try to make green. With green, putting the phthalo into Hansa yellow is like, especially at this level, at this size, you know, you almost have to make a quart of it for it to work because it's so doggone strong. So let me get my Hansa yellow. I always start with my weakest color, Hansa yellow, and I'm going to put a little glazing liquid in it. Make sure your glazing liquid stays clean. Glazing liquid, Hansa yellow, make sure my brush is clean. Now I'm going to, this makes me laugh because I don't even know how to get this small on the brush. So look at this. I'm barely there. I don't even know if you can see that on the camera. It's like I have 2 microns of paint. So look what it does. It immediately turns my Hansa yellow into almost green gold. I mean, if I had any more on there, I'd be way over into green already. So I'm going to get 2 more microns of paint. I, that's probably too much. Let me see. Eek. That's a lot of blue. But does it blow your mind as much as it blows mine whenever I try to mix with phthalo blue? Because this stuff is like it's like kryptonite. I mean, so there, look, there's my green, and I used 99% Hansa yellow and 1% phthalo blue. It's a little on the lime green side, and I really want something that's in the middle of these two. So I'm gonna creep up over here and try and grab a teeny weeny bit more phthalo. I'm kind of scared of phthalo. Phthalo scares me, so I don't know. I don't know what we could call that. Phthalophobia. Okay, this is a better green. This is still a little on the yellow side, but let's put it on the color wheel. And I want to kind of show you something. When it comes to mixing color, now this green that I'm going to put down, I'm going to put it up here because it is not visually between these two. It's much closer to yellow, right? But it's an important understanding to have about this color. You know, when I'm shifting things and I know that the color I'm making is really going to the yellow side, then I know I need to come back around to this side of the color wheel to get it where I want it. So let's go back over here and creep up on the scary phthalo once more. And I know you're all thinking, just get to the point, but honestly, I'll tell you, it's not that simple. Okay, this might be better. Let's see. Let's see where it goes. See how I'm getting closer to that blue area? This one might be pretty good. See the difference between those two? And I hope you can see it in the camera too, because this one's really yellow. This one looks like green gold, and this one is a more neutral green, not neutral green, but it's a more mid value green between these two. It really looks like it's half Hansa and half phthalo, and of course it's not. It's 99% phthalo and 99% Hansa and 1% phthalo. Now just for giggles, I'm going to go ahead and over mix my green here into something that it's not a primary green. I'm going to over mix it with phthalo. So I'm going to get that big chunk of phthalo there and get it a little more blue. Let's get a little bit more. I want to really over mix it. There we go. Okay. A nice green, a beautiful green, but it's much closer to the blue on my color wheel. Okay, so see those 3 greens there? Pretty amazing what you can do with just these 3 primaries. Okay, we've got our purple that's in the middle, our kind of red-orange that's in the middle there, and our greens that are ranging from a yellow green to a kind of primary green to this green that's got a lot of blue in it. Okay, now let's go back to making black, which is what we were going to start with. And one of the things when you're making black, you have to decide what kind of black you want. It's not just a matter of making black. It can be a black with a red undertone. It can be a black with a blue undertone. You can have a lot of fun with black. So let's start with phthalo blue. I'll put a little Quin Magenta. Listen to me. I'll put a little glazing liquid in it. And the next color I'm going to put out is my Quin Magenta. And I'm going to put a little glazing liquid in that. My brush is dirty, but that's okay because we're going to make black anyway. All right, so I'm going to grab my phthalo, grab my Quin Magenta, kind of glop and glop, you know, big blobs of each, because we're really mixing a dark color. So I just want to get right down into the dark color right away, which means I'm going to make a dark purple right off the bat. And let's see how that looks. Now it's going to be really hard for you to see this on the camera. So I'm going to put a drop of titanium white out, and every once in a while I'm going to go over here and show you what color I'm mixing. I'm going to use two brushes because I don't want that titanium to get into my mixture. So see, this is what I'm mixing right here. See how blue that is? I really need it to be redder than that. So I'm going to get over here. I put some Quin in that, Quin Magenta. I'm going to put a little titanium white over here so you can, whoops, so you can see what I'm mixing. Now see what I've got? I've got this purple, and that's going to be really good for what I want to do. Now let's look at our color wheel again. The color wheel shows us that the purple, the complement of purple is yellow. And anytime you put two complementary colors together, they're going to create a brownish, blackish mixture, depending on how they are created. So for instance, if I've got this purple here and it has a lot of red in it, my complementary color should have some green in it, because green's across from red. So if this purple right here is very blue, then I should probably be looking at putting some orange in it to mute it. Do you see what I mean? So it'll make sense here in a minute. I've got this purple. I better put some glazing liquid in it. I've got this really nice purple here. It's exactly what I want. And I'm going to go back to my Hansa yellow, grab a little bit of Hansa yellow. I don't want a whole lot. Grab a little bit of Hansa yellow and mix that up. Now I'm going to put this into white because that's the only way you're going to be able to see the mixture. So I'm going to put this down here, add a little white to it. So you see that? That's almost like a raw sienna right there. And that tells me that this mixture that I've got right here is too green. For me to get to black, it's too green. This, by putting titanium white into it. So what I'm going to do, the opposite of green is red. Here's my green. Here's my opposite side of red. So I'm going to go right to Quin Magenta, to this greeny brown that I made. I'm going to go right over here to Quin Magenta, grab some Quin Magenta, and go into that and mute it down, and let's see if we got black or did we get burnt umber. So put that over here, put a little titanium white into it so you can see what color. So it looks like I got burnt umber. So this is what happens when you mix black. I put too much Quin Magenta in it. It's too warm now. So I'm going to have to go back to my phthalo blue. It's way too warm. I'm going to have to cool it down. And me and phthalo, I'll tell you, it's crazy, but this should do it. So I go back to my phthalo because this is too warm. Let's see if we did it. Hopefully this did it. Okay, now I'm going to put this out over here. I'm going to add a little titanium white to it so you can see what color I'm making. Well, it's a greeny black, right? This is a little bit green. This one was a little bit too red. This is what happens when you make black. So you just keep mixing. It's a little bit too green. Let's see if we can make it really neutral black. I really wanted to make a neutral black for you guys. So I'm going to go back to my red. Once again, the reason I'm going back to my red, I'm in the green land, and I'm going to add a little bit of Quin Magenta. And I'm really trying to make a neutral red for you. Neutral black for you all. So let's get the tiniest bit of Quin Magenta because I don't want to make it too red. So let's see if we got it. Let's try right here. Ooh, that might be it. I might have hit it. Let's see. Let me see. I'm going to add a little bit of titanium white to it so you can see what I'm doing. That's better. That's better. It's still got ever so slightly green tint to it. So I'm going to come back to my Quin Magenta and just get a tiny, tiny bit of it. And let's see if I got it. That's better. So do you see how we can manipulate those colors by using their complements? I'm putting a little titanium white in that so you can see. So take a look at these right here. These colors right here. These are the ones, and actually this one too. So these are the ones that we've been mixing. Now this mixture here, which you may not be able to see on the camera, but this mixture here would be the black that we would use, and we could shift it in from this green range, or we can have this more neutral range. But if you're looking at a black and it looks too green, then you definitely want to shift it over with the Quin Magenta to make it more neutral. So that's kind of how powerful these colors are. Now, let's look at making some grays, some muted grays based on black. And I just want to check and see if we've got any questions. If we need anybody needs help in the Facebook page. Let me just go see if there's anybody over here flailing around. Doesn't look like it. Okay, good. Well, that's good. Nobody's having trouble with the feed or anything. Perfect. Okay, good. All right. So let's look at making some gray, which I think having a good gray mixture is really powerful when you're painting, because I'm going to show you why, because it makes some really wonderful muted color. So once again, I'm going to put out my 3 primaries. I'm just going to put them at the top up here. And I'm only putting a teeny weeny bit of them out because we're going to make gray. So for that I need a fair amount of titanium white. So I'm going to start off by making, once again, by making a purple. Here's my Quin Magenta. Here's my phthalo, and I don't really care if this purple has too much red or too much blue. I don't really care. I just want a dark value right now. So here's my purpley blue, and I'm going to grab a little bit of the Hansa. That's going to gray it down, mute it down. In this case, it's going to make it greenish, because that purple was heavily shifted to the phthalo blue side. But that's okay. I'm just going to make a gray. It's going to be kind of a green gray. That's fine. I'm going to grab my titanium and a little bit of this, and see, I'm kind of making a gray green. Okay. Now I want to put a little bit of glazing liquid in it because I want to use it for something. So this is my muted, my gray, and I'm going to use this to create color, muted color, that will harmonize my entire painting. No matter what I do, will harmonize if I work like this. So here is my gray. Now I'm cleaning my brush madly over here. Now I'm going to take my Hansa yellow. Let's take a little of this color and my Hansa yellow, a fair amount, because that Hansa yellow is not very strong. And so look at that beautiful color there, right? Grab a little titanium white, and now I've got this really nicely muted yellow color. Now, why not just use yellow out of the bottle? Well, because it's a one note. You get one note. If your color is a little bit more complex, like this color that I've made here, it's going to be a little bit more interesting. So look at the difference between this color and this color. Hansa yellow is beautiful, no doubt, right? It's gorgeous. We love it. But look at the difference in Hansa Yellow that's got a little bit of that gray in it. Okay, it's just a little bit more complex, a little bit more interesting. Okay, all right, let's do the same thing with Quin Magenta. Now, Quin Magenta, one of the things about Quin Magenta that can be very difficult is if you put Quin Magenta into titanium white, you get bubble gum. There's no way around it. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to do, whoops, my brush is dirty. It's got yellow in it. So let's, Quin Magenta, you're going to get a little yellow in this, but that's all right. It's no big deal. You're still going to get the feeling of this like total bubblegum thing. See that? You get that pinky bubblegum thing and it's like, oh, yuck. Now, it can be good to use this color, sparingly, right? Or maybe you want to like go all David Hockney on us and use a ton of it. Be my guest. But if you're trying to use Quin Magenta like this, you maybe want to think about using it mixed with a little bit of a muted gray. So take a little Quin Magenta, grab a little of that muted gray. I'm going to get a little more. I'm probably going to run out. Grab a little of that muted gray, grab a little bit of that titanium white. Now look at the difference. It's subtle. It's really subtle. And I hope you can see it on the camera. I'm going to put them right next to each other. It's pretty subtle, but I'm telling you, the complexity of having that muted gray in the color makes a big difference. Big difference. All right, finally, let's do phthalo blue, which really shows this issue. I may have to get some clean titanium white here. So if I've got titanium white and phthalo blue, I've all of a sudden got baby blue. It's just baby blue. Okay? Like, what am I going to do with that? So if you get something like that, once again, go back to that muted gray that we made. And it doesn't matter if that gray is a gray green or a gray blue or a gray orange. It doesn't matter. As long as it's a gray color that, we made by mixing the purple and getting that purple and then mixing the complement in to gray it down. It doesn't matter what kind of gray you get. So I've got the gray. I'm going to grab some phthalo. And no matter how much titanium white I put into it, I get a good color. Look at that. Really pretty. So I'm going to put that right next to the baby blue. So you can see it's a very subtle shift, but it really makes a big difference. Okay? So there you go. I'm going to jump over to the chat room and see if we have any questions real quick. So let me see. It doesn't look like we've got anybody with any questions. We're going to be a little bit shorter than usual today. Let me see if we have anybody in the Facebook room that needs to have a question. Okay. All right. So is that helpful information? I really hope so. I really hope so, because one of the things that is so important when you're working with color is to think about all of the different characteristics of color, not just red, blue, yellow, but value and tint and shade, and really trying to use the complexity of color to get the most mileage out of it. Because let's face it, it is like one of the biggest tools in our toolbox, okay? Let me see. Do I have any questions coming in? Looks like we're okay. Now, I want to once again just throw out a little invitation to come into the Thursday night Creative Flow class that we have going, and you can find that on my live streaming channel, which is Acrylic Diva Workshops. So get over there and check it out. There's also some free stuff on that channel too. And then what did I do with, oh, time for a commercial. So if you're, this is my book, and you can get this on Amazon. Acrylic Painting with Passion. Passion, y'all. Um, and I encourage you to get over there and take a look at this. You can get a Kindle copy. You can get the hard copy. And if you get a hard copy and you end up at a lecture or class or something that I'm giving and see me in person or real person, then bring your book and I'll sign it for you. Um, but one of the reasons that I'm not just, shilling for my book, but also one of the things I did when I wrote this book was I put all this information in there. And so it's in one place, composition, color, texture, all that stuff. All right? Okay. Hi Alicia. How are you? Welcome. Glad you popped in. Um, Okay, now let's give away some paint. I have paint to give away. It's on the other side of the room, but I have paint to give away. And so I'm going to give paint away. What I want you to do, I'm actually going to get something with which to write. I'm going to write on the back of my color wheel. I'm actually going to write at the bottom of my color wheel. So I'm going to write a number on my page, and you guys are going to guess the number. And whoever guesses closest gets the paint. Okay? Now, unfortunately, I can only ship the presents to people in the United States. Don't ask me why. It has something to do with the post office and customs and all kinds of wonky stuff. So if you all are looking at this from Canada or, Finland or something, I'm sorry I can't send you paint. But I'll send you love. Send you love anyway, okay? All right, so go into the chat box and write down your number between 1 and 10, either in the live chat on the YouTube channel or in the live chat on the Facebook page. I'm going to pop open the Facebook page and put your number in there between 1 and 10. I'm going to write down my number. Okay, I got it written down. Okay. Now, Mitch. Hi, Mitch. I see you there. Okay, Mitch wants to know, can you use cadmiums, red and yellow cadmium and ultramarine to do this mixing? No, no. Actually, if you mix, and we did that last week. I believe I did that last week. Oh, you know what? Here's my page. Here's my page from last week. Am I on camera? I don't even know if I'm on camera. Yeah, all right. Here's my page from last week, and this is a mixture of cadmium red and ultramarine blue, and this is a mixture of quinacridone magenta and phthalo blue. The purple, the difference in the purples, I'm going to show that to the camera. This mixture right here, when you're mixing with cadmiums, is always going to be muted. So that's why my mixing primaries are always the modern pigments, quinacridone magenta, phthalo blue, and Hansa yellow. So those are always, let me put the lids on them so I don't squirt myself in the face with paint, which I will do. Okay, I'm going to hold them up to the camera. I wonder if I can hold all three of them at the same time. Let's see. Can you see? Well, you can see my fingers, but I don't know if you can see the paint. Can you see the paint? I'll hold them one at a time. Hansa yellow medium, phthalo blue green shade. Whoops, go that way. Phthalo blue green shade and quinacridone magenta. And why phthalo blue green shade? Because we're using quinacridone magenta, which if you get phthalo blue red shade, it's too red. This is super red. This is like red kryptonite. So you want phthalo blue green shade, and it balances out your color wheel really nicely. And look guys, this is 3 paints. This is it. That's all you need. And where's my mixing sheet from last week? This is part of, actually this is from Thursday night's Creative Flow. I can't even talk. We are doing a Richard Diebenkorn. We're painting a Richard Diebenkorn, and I was showing everybody on Thursday night how to create a muted yellow for this beautiful Richard Diebenkorn piece that we're doing. It's Richard Diebenkorn piece called Knife and Glass. Really pretty. So you don't have to have a bazillion types of paint. Okay, Robin guessed number 8. Alicia, you live in Spain. Oh, bummer. That's too bad. Darn. Well, we send you love anyway. We send in love to Spain. Love to Spain. Um, all right. So Robin guessed number 8. Anybody else want to guess? Mitch, what did you guess? You guessed number 7. All right. I'm going to let it roll for a couple of more minutes and see if anybody else has any guesses. Um, and let's see, what else did I forget? Oh, something I didn't mention, but it's worth throwing out there when we're talking about color is the two types of white. Now, I have been mixing with titanium white for the most part. The last couple of times we've had class, had the Facebook Live, I've been mixing with titanium white. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's an opaque white, and I want you all to be able to see what I'm mixing. So that by putting that titanium white into the color, boom, you get the color right away. That's a really good way to see what kind of color you're mixing. Now, zinc white, which I don't have any with me right now, zinc white is a transparent white, and that will give you a mixture that doesn't shift the color quite so much. Simcha wants to know, can you guess twice? No, you can't guess twice. Only if there's a runoff, right? I'll tell you in a minute. The zinc white makes a mixture that is closer to the actual color. So maybe I'll do that next week. Maybe I'll pull up some zinc white and do some mixing head to head with titanium white, because there makes a big difference between the two, okay? And it's especially useful if you're trying to make thin transparent glazes. It's especially useful to use zinc white for that because it is a transparent color, okay? It's a transparent white. All right, so any more? Oh, thank you, Alicia. Thank you. Sending me love from Spain. I love it. I love me some Spanish love. All right, good. I hope it's warm over there. Boy, I could use some really hot sun right now. Here in San Francisco. Ooh, I'm wearing a turtleneck, you guys. I was freezing earlier. All right, I'm ready to give paint away. And Robin guessed number 8. Simcha guessed 7. Simcha, aren't you in London? I don't think I can send you paint unless you have a U.S. Do you have a U.S. address? I don't remember. I don't remember. Or maybe I can send it to L.A. Didn't I send to L.A. one time? My brain, you guys don't trust my brain. All right, so guessing is all done. Uh, Guessing is all done. I'm looking just to see if anybody else has any other. Okay, and the number is, look, the number is 7. So it looks like Mitch won. I know Mitch is in the United States, right? Alicia says she's in Ibiza. Am I saying that right? Ibiza? Oh man, that sounds warm and sunny. Ooh, that sounds really good. Let me just see. Simcha, what have you got there? Why did I think that you were in? Okay, then we got to have a runoff. You're in New York? We got to have a runoff then between you and Mitch because you both guessed 7. All right, I'm doing another number now. This is like the big spin, right? Okay, I'm writing down another number. Simcha and Mitch, you guys have to guess again. All right, let's see. What's my next number going to be? All right, I wrote it down. Now you guys guess again. All right. Um, Other than that, let me just tell you that I've got a show opening up in Sacramento with my good friend Vinay Sharma. He's the curator, and we're doing a wonderful, wonderful printmaking show up there. I did an 8-foot lotus print, you guys. 8 feet. What was I thinking? I've lost my mind. But it came out really well, and I'm really happy with it. So give me, excuse me, give me one more guess, you guys, before I wrap this up. Guess once more. I'm going to refresh my. Okay. I don't believe this. Mitch and Simcha, you both guessed five. Okay, that's it. I'm giving you both paint. We're going to be here all day. We're going to be here all day. You both guessed five. The number is nine. Nine. So I'll send you both something. Crazy girls. All right. I am going to sign off a little bit early today. I've got a massive amount of stuff to do. The Urban Art Retreat starts on Monday. That's 5 days of abstract painting with me at Fort Mason. It is going to be off the hook. I am so excited about that. Check out the plein air painting class or plein air painting workshop that I'm doing up in Napa in October. I think there are only 3 spots left in that. That thing sold out really fast. So check that out. Get over to Facebook and or acrylicdiva.com or find me on a random street corner and ask me questions, okay? All right, everybody. Mitch, Simcha, I'm sending you guys paint. Be sure I have your mailing address, okay? Send me that in the message and I will send you guys some paint. Next week, I think we're probably going to look at color, but we're going to have a little bit of a wonky Facebook Live because I'm going to be teaching all day. So we'll see how it goes. I may have to jump in and jump out really fast, okay? Have a fabulous day, everybody, wherever you are in the world. In Spain, I'm waving to you over here because I'm looking at my Facebook page over here. So I'm waving at you here. Have a good day in Spain. Have a good day in New York. You guys take it easy out there. And remember what I always say. What do I always say? I always say, keep painting. Okay? Mwah! Love ya. I'll see you next week. Bye bye.